podcast episode. I've got a fantastic guest for you, Dr. Jeff Anzalone. He's widely known across the internet for his work for Debt-Free Doctor. I'm really happy to have influencers such as him on the show. He's helping professionals shift their mindset to elevate health, maximize wealth, and enrich relationships, which is my niche. So, Jeff, welcome.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I love plugging into the community of healthcare influencers, and it's greatly needed in today's times. And start by introducing yourself, the work you do, and how you came to be doing what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a periodontist by trade, but a couple of weeks after I finished my residency, I'm from Louisiana, so the group practice I was supposed to join, unfortunately, pulled that deal out from under me, and it left my wife and I with $300,000 in student loans, a 2-month-old crying in the next room. We'd already bought a house, interest only loan back then. I had a relationship with a banker, and this was before the '08 crash. And I called him up and said, "Hey, we really like this house." And he said, "Oh, you're going in with that group. We'll make it work." So that was it. So I had a house. So I'm like, well, now I've got all these bills to pay. But I think the worst part about it is, in medical or dental school, they don't teach you anything about business or practice, because I was relying on that group.
Yeah.
So I started way behind the 8 ball. So that was a big Dave Ramsey guy back then. So I followed the 7 baby steps. And then after about 8 years, I was just, everything was like, paying off all the debt, paying off all that first house. Then, after 8 years, I hit it, and I thought it would be like this huge event, people throwing parties and stuff, but it was just like, okay, now what? Going to work the next day and just moving on. And, looking back on it, I didn't realize, well, yeah, I got to that point, and Dave Ramsey does a great job of getting you to that point. But if you're debt free and you're funding IRAs and 401ks and all that, moving forward, it's a great place to start. But you're still, if you want financial freedom, you still are relying on you trading time for money. I didn't know that concept and all that back then. Fast forward 2 years later, was snow skiing out in Colorado. I fell and I hurt my wrist. And that was my wake up call, Chris, because I was like, man, if I can't use my hands as a periodontist, I can't provide for my family. And so that became my why. Simon Sinek wrote the book, your why, start with why. And that was my why, to really figure this thing out. And, long story short, it eventually led me to real estate, and it eventually led me to passive real estate, where we can still do what we know best, treating patients, but yet take that extra money and invest it on the side. And that's when I started my blog, and I started to educate others about it. And it's gotten into YouTube and now Instagram, and then here we are now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very fascinating story and a fascinating journey. And I think, most of the audience out there, physicians, they resonate with, your aha moment. It's just a question of, when did they reach that aha moment? Was it like during 2020, or was it before, or is it now? So, which is quite interesting. So, you mentioned this thing about, trading time for money. And one thing that I've really noticed among physicians is that a lot of them love their careers. And so what do you say? Because, a lot of them, they don't mind trading their time, because they love their anesthesia or surgeons, or they love talking to patients. And so what's this idea of financial freedom in terms of that? You mentioned real estate. Is that just a way to divest? And so when they're not able to work, they can rely on those investments. Elaborate on that.
Yeah, I think I like the term work optional better,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of people that just absolutely love their job. They would work until they die. But what happens if they get hurt, if they get sick? So for instance, I've got a friend here that he had a very successful wine business, sold it, and had all this money and everything. And then his daughter gets hit in a car wreck by a drunk driver. Now she's a paraplegic.
Mm.
But let's say that he hadn't already sold his business in. Let's say that that he was still working. So I mean, you never know what can happen. So if he was still working, then now he has to care for her, pay for all of this stuff. So I mean, you never know what life is going to throw you. So having it's just for me, it's not about going out and buying a bunch of Lambos and boats and all this stuff. For me, it's more sort of like my own disability insurance. You pay your disability insurance and just don't even think about it as like money or, hey, I'm paying this because my disability insurance is going to get me these trips or whatever. I'm using real estate and then the passive income that's like a separate, like when I need it. Like right now, I'm getting distributions, almost on a monthly basis. I don't need it because I'm still working. So these doctors that love what they do, and that's great because as I'm getting older, I need to go to doctors, I need to go to dentists, I need people to treat me and my family. So it's more of a getting to that work optional status. So if you want to cut back, if you maybe love what you want to do, but maybe you want to go start seeing your grandkids as you get older and you only want to work 3 days a week, well, you can do that with having other streams of income and not skip a beat because you're not completely lying on Dr. You or whoever you are
Mm,
to trade time for money.
mm. Yeah, I love this idea, work optional, and this idea of storing your wealth in different investment vehicles, and so that you can slowly, gradually, you have that option to move away. You're not relying on, seeing patients and doing procedures, frequently. Um, so this thing, especially with real estate and, transitioning from a dental professional to a successful real estate investor, that's a lot of doctors. It's like a huge shock because they're so used to, again, trading time for money. And so what are specific steps and strategies you employ to make this transition? What are some of the biggest challenges you incur along the way, and so forth?
So for me, after I got that wrist injury, I was like, all right, I started really studying the wealthy people, like the really, really wealthy people. And you can go down a rabbit hole. I mean, there's all kinds of information out there. But if I was able to condense all of that information into two main points, here they are. Number one, wealthy people, they have real estate in their portfolio. Back then, I had zero except for my house, and it wasn't producing any income, so it was just my house.
Yeah.
Number two, wealthy people have multiple income streams, an average of 7 to 9.
Mhm.
Back then, I had one for my dental practice. So that really helped me really focus that I needed to invest in real estate to get multiple income streams. So the first question that if you're a practicing physician or a dentist, the first question you should ask yourself is, do I want to be active or do I want to be passive?
Mhm.
And by what I mean by active is, do I want to be involved in dealing with tenants? Do I want to be involved with looking around, buying property, negotiating, doing these cost segregation studies, and basically managing your property? Now, the longer that I do this, I started off passive, where you just kind of like a 401k, you just put your money into these different types of syndications or group investments, and they just pay you a return quarterly or monthly. And that way, I'm able to get different. So, for instance, I got a trailer park in South Louisiana that pays my mortgage. Now, they don't teach you that in medical or dental school. You think, okay, I want to go buy this $1 million house. I'm going to have to see more patients and save up. I have to trade more time for money. That's your mindset. If your audience knows about Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, that's the poor side of the quadrant, the employee or the self-employed,
Yeah.
where you trade time for money, you pay a lot in taxes, you don't really have a whole lot of write-offs,
Mm.
and everything is on your shoulders as far as income. But the goal is to get onto the right side, which is what he calls the rich side, as you know, where the business owner that you don't have to be there because you have employees working for you, you have these systems in place, or the quadrant that I am in or going towards 100% is the I or investor quadrant, where my money is making me more money. So I take my money from my practice and I go buy real estate like trailer parks and RV parks, and then that money pays my bills. It's just a different way to think. And that's how you get to work optional status. Most people out there, most physicians and dentists should start with the passive route. And that's what I did because you start to learn the process. I mean, focus on what you know best to make money, and that's your medical or dental degree, right?
Yeah.
Take that extra money and instead of giving it to the financial advisor so he can go travel while you're working and he's telling you, hey man, you got to work till you're 70. Oh, by the way, this connection's not really good because I'm in Aruba or something, but hey, keep working. No, seriously, it's the we've been brainwashed, man. That's the best job in America. That's the biggest scam I've ever been scammed out of, you know.
Uh,
It's great because and then okay, so check this out. You bust your butt, you treat patients, you got to deal with staff, you got to pay all these taxes. You're giving your financial advisor money every single month. And then when you call them up a couple years later and you want to take some of the money out, they like, wait, why do you want to take money out? I have to go ask for permission to get my money? Seriously? Dude,
yeah.
I'm telling you, we've been scammed, we've been brainwashed. And once it clicks in your head that
Mhm.
it's your money, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to hire somebody unless you want to, that's fine. You want your money working for you now, not when you're 70 and you want to go skiing and you got a hip replacement and your knee's bad. And what's the point going snow skiing at 70 when you can do it in your 30s? You know? So again, it's all boils down to how you want to live your life.
Yeah.
And that will kind of help just I know I kind of got off the active or passive real estate, but that's where you want to start. And then from there, you know, whenever I coach people, that's the first place that we start. Active or passive, and then from there we can kind of go to the left or go to the right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love this idea because you're talking about building assets to produce the income to pay for liability. So you're essentially working free. I mean, you're living free, and your assets are paying your expenses as opposed to your your job. And you mentioned something very funny is like it's the same thing as like you're 9 to 5 and you're busting your butt and you're working 80 hours or whatever, and then the CEO of the company is like making 20 million and he's playing golf and private jets, and you're like still struggling, and it's it's the same thing. Many of our listeners may be coming from non-financial backgrounds. They're interested in investing. And then what are some key mindset shifts, principles you believe are crucial for someone with limited financial experience to succeed in this world of real estate investment?
Yeah, that's an easy question. I would say probably 95% of the people, maybe more of people that I coach, the first question I ask is, what do you want? 95+% of people cannot tell you what they want.
Yeah.
And if you can't tell me what, it's kind of like, hey, you want to go on vacation this year? Yeah, I want to go on vacation. Where? I don't know. Well, how can I help you get to that destination if you don't know where you want to go? So that's the first thing. So you gotta figure out where you want to go. Do you want to work full time and replace your income, get to work optional status? Do you only want to work for 10 years and quit? I mean, so there's all kinds of different things out there. So you gotta figure out what you want first, and then that will guide you. Here's the problem. Most people that come to me, they want some streams of passive income so they can retire early if they choose to. But everything that they're doing is taking them to the beach. 401k, I can't touch it till I'm 70, yet they're telling me they want to go to the mountains. And then we start working a plan like, well, I don't know if I can really i- invest a whole lot every month because I'm putting all my money in a 401k and I don't have much left over. I'm like, wait a minute, you just told me you don't. So again, it's the brainwashed mentality. So you have to shift your. I mean, once you decide on, let's just say you want to get $200,000 a year in passive income from real estate. That's your goal. Once you commit to that, then everything that you do and on all your actions, you got to get around other people. And that's probably one of the biggest things is a network. Because, for me, I mean, I hate to say this, but I've wasted the last 15 years going to dental meetings. And when you go to dental meetings, everybody else is there because they have to be there. We got to get
Yeah.
our continuing education credits. So what do people do? They get there and they're like, oh, they're looking at the clock and man, wish a guy would give me the code so I could write it down and I can get out of here and put they don't want to be there. So I've spent 15 years of networking with people in somewhere that they don't even want to be there. And then literally last year, I really just focused on spending the majority of the time in meetings with people that want to be there. There's some real estate investing groups for physicians, for dentists. I go to different entrepreneur groups, and it's once you get around those people with success, you can't help not elevate your game.
Yeah.
So really, nothing is going to change until you change. You have to change your environment. You
Hmm.
know, if you're an alcoholic and you want to quit drinking, is it going to be easier to go to church every day and not drink, or is it going to be easier going to the bar every day and not drink?
Yeah.
You got to get out of the bar. You got to change your environment. You got to go somewhere to where people are going to encourage you and help you.
Yeah.
And those are the two main things that, figure out what you want. And then once you figure out what you want, get around those people, get around successful entrepreneurs, successful people that are doing what you want, or they have what you want, and pay them for it. Pay them for it. Because your time is more important. You can make money all the time. You can't make more time.
Yeah.
I mean, I've spent six figures this year in personal development in 2023
Yeah.
because they've given me. I mean, I paid $5,000 for one hour phone call, and that was like 80, $90,000 worth of value in it. But the more important thing is it instead of taking me a year and a half to do something, it took me like 2 weeks because of what that guy told me.
Mm.
And you got to think in terms like that.
Yeah. It's like a shortcut. It's like a fast cut to success. And it almost reminds me of like social media and technology. And you use that, you learn how to use that, and you can get your message and your distribution and your channels much faster. And I love this idea. Just there's the saying that a lot of trolls and haters, they say they hate on you, and eventually less than a year later they're all gone. They didn't do anything. And they say that you can't do it because they themselves haven't done it. So, but there are people that have done it, and you have to seek those out. So I love that.
One other thing I want to say, kind of a follow up what I was
Yeah.
saying. Let's say you got a kid that's like 10, 11 years old that wants to be a great basketball player.
Mm.
Well, he can go on YouTube and he can do all these drills and he can practice in the driveway, or he can hire like a personal coach. Both of those are going to eventually probably get him the result that he wants, but which one's going to get him there faster? Does he want to wait until he's out of high school before he gets good? Or does he want to wait until he's back in junior high and he's really, really good? So he has to pay, or the dad has to pay for the coach to get him there. I mean, if you've seen The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, I mean, the greatest basketball player ever to ever play, if that guy has to have a coach, I mean, why wouldn't you have to have a coach in whatever area, whether you want to get, health? It's really three main things: health, wealth, and relationships. Health, wealth, and relationships. If you're having a problem right now in your life, I guarantee you it can fit in one of those categories. That's
Mm.
it. And you just find somebody to help you in one of those.
What a fantastic way. And how can people contact you, reach out to you, follow your socials, and if there's one book or podcast, YouTube channel you would recommend, what would that be?
I'm pretty active on Instagram at Dr. Jeff Anzalone, but my website's easy, debtfreedoctor.com. And all of my links, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all that is on there. And things that I think people should know, and then questions people ask me, I write an article on it. And then I take that article, turn it into a YouTube video, and then I take that and then put it out on social media. So I
Yeah.
know everybody likes to listen or read things or learn differently. So I'm trying to appease people as much as I can.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It just kind of creating content helps you learn it and helps you share with the world as well. And I really love this conversation, and I love networking with like-minded healthcare individuals in the personal finance space. Doctors and dentists, they all need this really, because we're not taught this. We're taught just to kind of work for a hospital and just but that's not good enough for today. So be sure to follow Dr. Jeff's resources. All these will be in the links and show notes. And with that, thanks so much for coming onto the podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for